Can you all hear me well? If yes, can you give me some reactions or just number one in the chat box? Thank you. Wonderful. All right, so welcome again to our series of educational webinars. And this enlightening session entitled Maximize Learning, the Power of Differentiated Instructions will be delivered. I believe that will be very interestingly delivered. And again, my name is Han. I'll be your host today, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us. Before we dive into our main topic, let me just quickly introduce our esteemed presenter, Ms. Gülbin Özdemir. Ms. Gülbin Özdemir is a seasoned teacher of English who teaches gifted and talented students in Turkey. With more than 10 years of teaching experience, she is a certified TESOL advanced practitioner and working as an ambassador for the International English Teachers Association and Global School Alliance. She is currently working on her master thesis in the field of ELT. In 2022 and 2023, she was nominated for the Dedicated Teacher Award from Cambridge University Press. Especially, she is currently an EduVerse ambassador, helping to share and promote EduVerse to educators around the world. Let's take a moment now to recognize the organizations behind this webinar. Backed by ProEd Education Solutions, EduVerse PD Network serves as a global platform where educators connect, collaborate, and exchange insights on education. Our mission is to equip educators with essential learning opportunities and resources. With monthly newsletters and the latest educational trends and bi-monthly live webinars, we are committed to supporting your professional development completely free of charge. So if you're looking to tailor your teaching methods to meet the diverse needs of your students and boost learning outcomes, this webinar is for you. Today, Ms. Gülbin Özdemir will shed light on innovative teaching techniques and strategies to make a meaningful impact on students' learning journey. Following the webinar, we would like you to complete a brief survey to help us enhance your experience. Once submitted, you'll receive an email within 24 hours with instructions to download your certificate. Now, let's dive into this insightful session. With no further ado, I welcome you to this webinar and feel free to ask questions and make the most of everything from this webinar that it has to offer you. Thank you. And Ms. Gülbin, over to you.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Thank you. So soon I'll be sharing my screen. All right. So hello, everyone. I'm back again because I'm just, how to say, latecomers for the technological issues. So that's why I don't want to take some risks. And I just want that everything is guaranteed and everything is cool and everything is calm. So that's why. All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. And thanks for coming. That was a really, really nice and prestigious thing to be listened by you. So that's why I'd like to welcome to my session. And I'm so proud and privileged right now. Thank you for coming again. So we can start right now. As you can see, my title is Maximize Learning, the Power of Differentiated Instruction, right? Okay, let's move on. So I'll be sharing me, first of all. So that's going to be a very brief self-introduction because, of course, you read and you heard about me, but I'd like to just give you a glance of myself and my career, right? Let's say, okay? So I'm an award-winning EFL teacher, and I've been working for more than 10 years. I just want to say that this is not like 20 years or 25 years, although I adore all those teachers that work for 24 years or 25 years, I don't know. But it's been just the 11th year, so that's going to be a very nice thing for me if I can get those kind of years, like 30 years or 25 years. So I've been working at a gifted center for 3 years, and that is so special because we're not saying that we're teaching those gifted and talented students, but we say we facilitate their learning. So that's why this title is really important and essential for me. I should say, because in Turkey we have those gifted centers, and we just accept those gifted and talented students at our gifted centers, and it's quite nice and free of charge, and also it is regulated by our Ministry of Education, and also I just said it, but I would like to emphasize this is free of charge, and this is public, it's not private, so that is a privilege for us to work at those gifted centers, and also it's a privilege and honor to work with those children. Like we just discover them, and then we would just work with them, and it's quite an honor for us as well. I am a TESOL advanced practitioner and also PDC facilitator for a nationwide project, and it is sponsored by British Council. Also, I'm the country ambassador for the International English Language Teachers Association and Global School Alliance, and EduVerse, of course. And I just wrote in here that I am currently working on my master's thesis, but most probably I won't be able to finish it. So I'm not quite sure if I can get my master's degree or not, but okay, that's another topic of discussion, okay? All right, what are we gonna do today? Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, that's why I can't speak English today, maybe. Today's menu, we will have the definition of differentiation, right? First stuff is this, the definition of differentiation, because when you look at the title itself and you just say differentiated instruction, and then nothing comes to your mind, right? And that is so annoying, actually. For example, for me, that's a quite new term, although it's not quite new, but to me, it's quite new, although I'm in the process of using it. But for theoretical knowledge, it's not like you just accustomed to, or you just don't see in your daily life. But it is quite new and popular, right? So we're going to dive into the definition, first of all. This is our first stop. And the second of all, we're going to be doing this thing. What's the function of it? Why there's a need? Why will we use this? Why um, we are supposed to use it, right? Okay. And the function and the advantages, we're going to dive into this topic as well. And the third step, we're going to be using this, like how can we benefit from this? So, yeah, so I was just telling you that I'm a teacher and I'm an educator. So although I'm a fan of theoretical information, I need to know what's happening behind the scenes, right? It's what's happening in the kitchen of it, right? So that's why I'll be sharing with you some classroom practices. And I find it's quite essential because when you see that someone, like a teacher from anywhere in the world, like a teacher from Turkey, a teacher from Philippines, a teacher from Vietnam, can do it, and you just say to yourself, okay, I can do it too. This is not like this is not something that I cannot reach. So it's practical and it's realistic, and I can do that as well. So that's why this is quite inspiring, and I find it quite inspiring. That's why I would like to share with you the classroom practices as well. And then we're gonna have the closure and Q&A part, hopefully, right? Okay. The definition of differentiation. So, as I told you before, this is quite new to me still. So that's why we're going to dive into the details. It's not going to be like, okay, differentiated instruction is this. No way. You're going to have many different definitions, okay? For example, this is the first one, and I quite like it. This goes like this. Instead of teaching the entire class at one level of difficulty or using a single instructional strategy, can you see this? Like one level of difficulty, like always going in the medium freedom, like without risks, like it's in your comfort zone. It's really, of course, I know there are so many difficulties in the classroom, and there are so many challenges in the classroom while teaching. I know that part. But still, you can try. You can try it without, like without that kind of feeling that you feel insecure using or trying, right? So instead of going on the same path, you can try lots of things, as this definition offers. Educators can practice differentiation to give students options for taking the information, like taking in the information, understanding the concept, and demonstrating what they learn. This is the assessment, as you may know, right? Okay, and this is quite important because you give the students the options, right? And this is quite challenging and quite lovely at the same time. Because, for example, if you just stick to some kind of traditional classroom methodology or some kind of strategy or method or technique that you always use, I I don't want to lie, but for this century, like 21st century, for this generation, no way, you wouldn't succeed. I mean, of course, you're a teacher, you can teach whatever you like, but if you want to teach, so let's say if you want to teach that with the that kind of inspirational spiritual feeling in you, then you need to try lots of things, right? In order to see that your students enjoy your lesson as well, and you yourself enjoy your lesson as well. So that's the basic point for me. For example, I wouldn't enjoy a lesson if I don't enjoy the lesson, right? So you have a class but you don't smile, you have a class but you don't laugh, you have a class, you're always disciplined and you're always serious. Come on. Or you just have your voice like and then it comes like dull, and it comes so I don't know, boring to the students, right? Especially in this century, I'm sorry. So that's why you have to have some options. You have to have your plan B to plan Z because everything can happen for a while, right? So that was the first definition, okay? And the second one, Carol Ann Tomlinson states that differentiation means tailoring instruction to meet individual needs, right? This is quite important because I know when you have so crowded classrooms, when you have your the number of your students are just quite increasing all the time. I know how it feels. I know I've been there, but still you need to find some ways to meet individual needs as well, if you can, right? Okay, so whether teachers differentiate content, process, products, or the learning environment, the use of ongoing assessment and flexible grouping makes this a successful approach to instruction. So you're gonna see soon what I mean, okay? Just in the next slides you will be seeing, okay? But these are the four elements like content, process, products, and the learning environment. You need to focus on them if you want to use this differentiated instruction, okay? Right? Okay. At its most basic level, so we're going simple and simple and simple. Differentiation consists of the efforts of teachers. See, the efforts, the devotion, and the things that you would like to do, the things you would like to try, right? It's not like, okay, this discipline goes like this, or this methodology offers this, and you have to do this. It's not like that, okay? So it's always your personal or professional choice. It will always be like that. But if you think of this today's world, it's not a choice anymore, right? If you want to succeed in your teaching, so it doesn't seem to me that it's not like a compulsory thing. So it is compulsory, I should say, right? Okay. So I will read again. Differentiation consists of the efforts of teachers to respond to variance among learners in the classroom, right? Whenever a teacher reaches out to an individual or small group to vary his or her teaching in order to create the best learning experience possible, that teacher is differentiating instruction. You see what I'm talking about right now? So this is quite important. Like when you reach out to an individual or a small group, that is your class, that is your students, and then you just create, you want to create the best learning experience for your students. So anything you could do actually, like anything you could do originally, or anything you could try, or anything you would like to try, although there's always the possibility of failing, right? Although there is that fact, anything you just do in order to have your learning experience so colorful, or so cool, or let's say so quality, so then you just differentiate your instruction. That means, right? Okay, so another definition: differentiated instruction is an activity-driven approach. See? Activity-driven approach. It's not like theoretical, like booky, I should say, thing that you just use in your classrooms, right? So it's an activity-driven approach to education that guides students through a subject or course. In my case, in my context, that will be foreign language teaching, and that will be English language teaching because I'm an English teacher, right? So that's why. But you could try as well in your subject and in your course. So it says it includes using a variety of projects, tasks, or problem-solving activities. So you can vary these kind of activities, like I don't know, you could just do lots of things I can't imagine right now, right? So we could just list so many different, so many original activities in here. Like, I don't know, maybe we could have a balloon and then we could just throw it from a cliff. You could have lots of activities. It really depends on your creativity, and it really depends on your willingness to try something, right? So that's why it's quite essential. Okay? So I was telling you about these four classroom elements, right? Do you remember? So now we're there, okay? So teachers can differentiate at least four classroom elements based on student readiness, interests, and learning environment, and learning profile as well, because we will be talking about learning styles, but not like in detail. But learning styles and learner styles are also important, and learning profile and learner's profile are also important. So first of them is content, right? And the second one is process. And the third one, product. And the last one, learning environment. So teachers can differentiate based on these four elements, right? Content, process, products, and learning environment. You want to see how? Okay, let's go. Content. You know what content is, right? Okay, so the examples of differentiating content at the elementary level include these. For example, you could use reading materials, lots of different reading materials at varying readability levels, and putting text materials on tape, or using spelling or vocabulary lists, right? Or presenting ideas through both auditory and visual means, and using reading buddies. Reading buddies, do you know what that is? I'll just explain it to you. And meeting with small groups to reteach an idea or skill for struggling learners, or to extend the thinking or skills of advanced learners. So this is about the content. So we are just focusing on the skill of reading. So this is because of the content, right? So, and you just see that there are reading buddies. Do you know what that is? Have you ever tried reading buddies? So reading buddies are like, for example, have you ever tried pair work? Like you just get your students together, like two of them, and then you just say, okay, you are pairs right now. And I would say learning buddies. For example, for my adults learner, I just use it. For my like kids, I just use it. It goes with all grades. So and then you just say that, wow, you just observe your students, and then you just see that, okay, sometimes I just tell like 100 words or 100 sentences for a content that I would like to convey because it's quite hard for me. And I just try to explain it with so many words, so many like sentences or chunks or whatever I have in my mind. But then I see that some of my students or one of my students could do that so easily, like snapping his fingers. Come on, how could that possible? And then when you observe that, you just see that, okay, and you just realize that these learning buddy thing actually works. For example, when you especially get the one that is a fast learner with like a relatively slower learner, you just see that the fast learner gets the satisfaction of teaching something, right? And but not like a teacher, let's say, right? But that gets the satisfaction of teaching and conveying the information to someone. It's teaching for him. And then you just see the slower learner has that kind of how to say relief, because when they listen to you they're like, okay, I need to understand but I don't understand, something like that. And I've been there as well, because I was the one who were sitting at the back stage of the classroom. So that's why, although I would like to raise my hand, I couldn't. I was shy. So that's why I just know how that goes, especially when a teacher tries hard to explain something and she can't somehow. That really works. That slower learner slightly opens up, right? Because of the balance. You know, you're the teacher and you're the authority, and he or she has to listen to you and then get whatever he could get, whatever she could get from you. But what happens? He or she fails, right? Then these bodies think works. See? All right. So that is differentiating as well. So don't worry about your teaching styles or teaching strategies. If you add something, if you vary your techniques, if you vary your methodology, or if you vary your kind of teaching methods, even if the slightest, even if the simplest trick that you do in the classroom would be counted as differentiation, okay? So it really depends on your willingness and creativity, right? Because you have the diverse students, right? Okay. Let's move on to the process. As you can see, the examples of differentiating process and activities that you can use at the elementary level. I am always talking about the elementary level because I've been working with the elementary level like kids, not like kindergarten, but the kids in the primary schools, and also elementary goes with the secondary schools as well, like middle schools in Turkey. So that's why I won't go to the upper secondary school or grades, right? So that's why, okay, or higher education level, because I'm not teaching at the university. So that's why you're going to see that term all the time. Okay, so the first one would be using tiered activities through which all learners work with the same important understandings and skills, but proceed with different levels of support, challenge, or complexity. And you will see providing interest centers that encourage students to explore subsets of the class topic all particular interests to them. Developing personal agendas, this is quite important, personal agendas, task lists written by the teacher and containing both in common work for the whole class and work that addresses individual needs of learners to be completed either during the specified agenda time or as students complete other work early. Offering manipulatives or other hands-on supports for students who need them, and also varying the length of time a student may take to complete a task in order to provide additional support for a struggling learner or to encourage an advanced learner to pursue a topic in greater depth. So we can say lots of things here, right? This is about the process. And when you define the process, it goes like from the very beginning of your class, so it may go like that, from the very beginning of your class till the end of your class. So that's one thing. Or it may go from the very beginning of the term, like educational term or academic year, till the end of the academic year or till the end of the academic term or educational term, how you say in your countries, I don't know. And so, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's about the time and it's about the effort that you just show and the devotion that you show before the actual process starts, right? This is quite important. And when you just prepare yourself for these kind of things, for example, this is quite important, that one, providing interest centers. Do you do that in your classroom? Like, do you really provide interest sections or centers for your students, right? For example, when I was when I was at a university for my BA degree, I remember having kind of like a station technique, right? Maybe you know that, maybe you don't know, but that included like, for example, you could have four other sections or five other sections, like different sections in your classroom. And it actually doesn't require so many materials to show up with. For example, you say, okay, my classroom is this big. How can I do that? Or you just want to say, come on, I have like over 40 students in the classroom. How can I regulate the classroom? Or you could say, come on, this is a village. I work at a rural area. So I barely see the desk or barely see the blackboard or barely see something that is actually related to the school or education. So what are you talking about? You could say, but still be sure that I've been in your shoes, right? I worked in the rural areas, I worked in the villages, I worked in immigration centers and camps. Although the things can seem like, okay, I cannot do anything, I guess. I'm afraid I'm so I don't know. The this is quite hard for me because this is impossible, you could say. The materials are missing and the physical conditions of the school is not so good. And although you could say as well, this one as well, I don't get support from my principal or deputy manager, right? You could say all of them, but these are not excuses. Sorry. These are not really excuses. For example, so that technique would go like four corners in the classroom. So these corners can either be physical, like with the desks or with the tables you could just use, you could go, or I don't know, with the chairs as well. But you could work with a piece of paper as well, right? With a piece of paper, and it's like it's nothing. With a piece of paper and with a piece of chalk, you could go and define your corners, right? And then you could just direct your students to that corners. For example, this corner is for poem writers or story writers. And then you could say this corner is for songwriters. You could just compose something in order to sing a song. And then for this corner, you could go and act because this is the drama corner and you would role play this task, and the other corner would go for example, I don't know, for a silent way of expressing anything, right? Because of your shy students, they could use drama, but not in like dialogues or reading aloud or role plays or something like that, but rather they could uh, still be silent, and they could show and they could use their gestures and mimics. And so you could see that those corners are made up corners, so nobody shows up for you to say that, okay, this corner should be this corner should be that, and these students should go to this corner, and that group of students should go to that corner. No way, you're the authority in the classroom, right? You're the boss in the classroom. So it's always your choice, it's always your freedom, and also it's always your responsibility to work with all those students and to direct them to have the best learning environment. So if you go and if you prefer just one way, you wouldn't succeed. I'm sorry. So that's why you have to have some zigzags in your teaching, right? So that's why we are talking about the process. So, and it helps you with the assessment as well, and it helps with the with all of your diverse students, right? And it's quite important. Let's move on to the other products. This is really challenging for all EFL students and student teachers, and also EFL teachers as well, because we hardly get that product from the students, right? Okay, it's not like you have your I don't know, you have your cup and with coffee in your classroom. Okay, teacher, I made this. Can you see that? Oh, congratulations, good work. It's not like that. So if you are an EFL teacher, you have to make your students speak. Right? So that's the important issue. And if you don't see them speaking, because speaking is the basic and it's the most powerful skill that you could observe, right? This is what we're talking about, like EFL teacher, English as a foreign language teacher, we say. So you have to speak English, right? So that's the ultimate goal. So that's why products section always makes me irritated. So let's see what we have in here. Giving students options again of how to express required learning. Create a puppet show, write a letter, develop a mural with labels, right? Using rubrics that match and extend students' various skill levels. And you could allow students to work alone or in small groups or in pairs on their products. It's always your choice. I just said it. And encouraging students to create their own product assignment as long as the assignments contain required elements, right? So this is quite important because you have to have some options for your products. When you go with younger learners, I would say it works because I taught 7 years at a primary school. So I would really wholeheartedly and sincerely, genuinely say that it works, right? It's not like okay, but come on, this is so hard for me because they're too small and they don't understand the options. And when I give the options, then I am like all the time on the phone because of the parents. I don't know how it goes in your countries, but in Turkey, we just let the parents know about our number. So that's why, and we have that WhatsApp thing and social media and everything. So then you would say, okay, I would give options to the students, of course, during the classes, but not after the class. No way. During the class, I could, but after the class, no way. No, for the homeworks, for the task, you could. Although you wouldn't be left alone by the parents, like, what I'm gonna do? What are you doing? What is this homework about? I don't understand anything. What options are you talking about? Come on, I know, I've been there. But if you provide even the parents, because you're the teacher, you're always the teacher. Your role continues to go on and on as a teacher, even for the parents as well. I'm sorry. So that's why it's quite important. When you have or when you provide that kind of short explanation for the parents as well, and you just list the options, then you see that it works again. I mean, for the homework and for the time that you spend together with your students in the classroom, okay? Just give those options for the tasks, okay? This is quite important because then you would just observe that the students would go the best and would learn the best for that kind of assignments or tasks that you just put them on, and then you would see that, okay, wow, this student is really doing good for this thing. Like, I don't know, let's talk about some kind of, for example, gap filling activities, or just the story writing or a songwriting. I don't know what that is, or a puppet show. And then when you give those options, you'll see that, wow, my student is great in creating a puppet show on his own. Or writing a letter would go perfectly with the student because he or she has this kind of capacity or capability to write a very nice letter. I don't know what type of letter that is. I don't care, but I mean, the letter, come on. In Turkey, I should honestly say that writing a letter, come on, is kind of, it's like a dream. So then we just see that, okay, the letter, okay, we have the letter, but slightly, like slightly the same all the time. Why? Because of ChatGPT. Or AI tools, right? They're smarter. So they go online and they do whatever they like, and then they got the letter and they submit it to you, submit the letter to you. But come on, what we have and what we need is that original letter that they have and they create with their own thoughts and ideas, right? So keep that in mind. Those options, either way, those options will work, okay? So this is quite important, right? Learning environment. This is what I like the most because I could use anywhere as a learning environment. So I should say that this is not like, I don't know, maybe it's about my personality, but I should say that I wouldn't use that four wall thing with a blackboard, with a whiteboard, and with chairs and desks as a school, as a learning environment. I shouldn't, I don't know. It's because I'm a maybe I'm more like adventurous. Maybe I am I don't know, maybe I just think like crazy person. You would judge me about that, but I can use anywhere as a learning environment, just as long as my students can enjoy that moment and that environment, okay? Personally and professionally, first, I need to enjoy that learning environment, and then my students would enjoy that learning environment. Okay, the examples, let's look at them in detail. Making sure there are places in the room to work quietly and without distraction, as well as places that invite student collaboration. So this is quite important because when you have to give, when you have to convey something really important, so you have to have those kind of rooms to work quietly and without distraction for exam times or anything like that, or student and providing materials that reflect a variety of cultures and home settings, setting out clear guidelines for independent work that matches individual needs. This is quite important again. Developing routines that allow students to get help when teachers are busy with other students and cannot help them immediately. Helping students understand that some learners need to move around to learn, while others do better sitting quietly. And this is the most challenging part, right? I know, I've been there. I've just told you 100 times, I guess, during this webinar, but really, I've been there, so I know how you feel. I failed, not like a couple of times, 100 times. I failed. Believe me, promise, I won't lie to you. So that's why this is quite important, like helping students understand that some learners need to move and some students need to sit. But you have to have that balance, right? You have to create that balance, not the students. You have to tell them, or you have to show them, or you have to make them realize that sometimes some students or some learners can need that kind of move because they just have that urge to move around. And I can understand that because as a teacher, for example, now, even now, sitting makes me feel irritating, irritated right now. And I am bothered by sitting, for example. It's just personal. And when you just create your learning environment, you need to understand there that your students are unique, right? Each of them is unique. So that's why you need to understand, first of all, that they are not, I'm sorry to say that, I do apologize, but they are not sheep, right? They are not. So that's why, and you're not the shepherd, basically, right? And that's why they can move around. They can, sometimes they would like to work quietly, and sometimes they would like to dance in the classroom. Sometimes they would like to do something that annoys you, and it's not about you. It is not nothing related to your lesson or related to your class. It's related to back in something that he or she had with the family, most probably at home. And you need to recognize all those things, and you need to do something for that. For example, my way, I will honestly and frankly share what I do for my learning environment. If I can get somewhere else, like a very wide saloon or hall or even the nature, I can and I will do most probably, because this is quite important for me to experience lots of different learning environments, because learning, it's not something that you just go to the school and get the information from the school or that building or the classroom. No way. You can learn anything, anywhere, from anyone, right? So that's the deal. So that's why at most times, or let's say oftentimes, or maybe always, I should say, and it doesn't really require my personal psychological regulations or psychological mood. It doesn't really count, or it doesn't really affect this kind of thing. But always or oftentimes I start my classes like with a very, very, very short, very nice, and very lovely, and very I should say crazy, or I don't know, maybe you could also call this as idiot warm up games, because sometimes I just get inspired from different educators from the different parts of the world. Sometimes I do get inspired from them, and I just follow them on Instagram or something like that. But sometimes I make up those kind of games. These are really short games, and they are not directly to the EFL, like language teaching. They're not directly related to language learning or language teaching, but they are fun. That's the key. for me, because when you go and when you first meet with your students and you just see that, okay, you can read from, if you can really carefully look at their faces, you can just realize some of them are really into your lesson that day and that time. They're in the mood of learning. And sometimes you just see that, okay, those kind of students, or those students, or the one sitting in behind or sitting in front is not in the mood of learning something, right? Especially with the kids. Because they would just have lots of things in their imagination, lots of things on their mind, and they could think something else in their mind while you are explaining, and you are just how to say, tearing yourself to say something, to teach something. I know, but it doesn't really, I don't know, it shouldn't affect your teaching, because it's not about you personally. It's not about you professionally. It's not about you or anything else. It's about, it's just related to them. So that's why I use those games in a short period of time in order to regulate their mood. Because when you put the game in the classroom, you just say that nothing can compete with that game, because the spirit, like, I mean, the mood immediately changes to positive. If it is negative, it increases. And I should say that I've never failed with a game, because it's always fun. And even if you don't define the rules, even if you don't like put the scores, even if you don't provide them with some kind of real scores, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the spirit of the game would make the learning environment positive. So don't just forget about that. Even if your classroom, even if your size is really crowded, is really big, please try with small groups, or with pairs, or with the large groups. I don't know. You could make them shout like girls and boys, and okay, come on, something like this. All right. So even though you wouldn't find yourself in that mood for every class of yours, you could still try at least once in a week, okay? And then you could write me your experiences to my email. I would just really be delighted to read them all, okay? You could contact me afterwards, right? Okay, number two. Topic, what's the function of differentiated instruction? I already talked about this for a while, I know, but we're going to dive into this right now. What's the function? What's the advantage? So why do we use this, right? Okay, so why do we think there's a need? I'm sure that you all have this, you all have observed or seen this cartoon before, right? So as you can see, it's written, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. See, normally you see this while you're looking for equity and equality. Normally, yeah, I know the keyword is this, but still, here, differentiation protects you from this failure or from this mindset, because this is a fixed mindset, simple. So it really protects you from this, right? So keep that in mind, because the education system always forces our students and also the teachers to do the same all the time. But no way, we need to put ourselves outside the circle as well, right? Because we are the teachers, right? We became teachers for this. Okay, one size does not fit all. So today's students, I'm sorry, today's schools serve children from a variety of families and backgrounds, and this is quite important, with a variety of learning strengths and needs, and of course, learning styles, right? This is quite important, because you never know how hard it is for that child to come to your class, right? So sometimes it's really, I don't know, sometimes as teachers, we tend to forget about these kind of things. And sometimes, I don't know how it is in your schools, in your countries, but in Turkey, we have that one teacher who is responsible for the records of the families and backgrounds of the children. So when you go to that teacher, or when you go to your principal, or when you go an e-system we have, when you go that system, you just see that, okay, this child comes from this child comes from that kind of family or background. But if you have that access to that kind of records, please go and please look through the class that you take and that you're responsible for. Okay, this is quite important for you to understand learning needs and learning strengths and weaknesses of your students, and this is really important, right? So, differentiated instruction is a flexible and individual approach to instruction. We already talked about this, right? How flexible it is. So, all you have to do is to make some effort, right? Make some zigzags, I told you, right? Okay, so when a teacher reaches out to an individual or small group and varies her teaching to create the best learning experience possible, that teacher is differentiating instruction. We already talked about this, but I'd like to highlight this again and again. So I know it's not easy, but it is crucial and critical for you to be a successful teacher and for you to have successful learners, right? So because we are all different, we all have a way we best learn to accomplish a goal, whether we're learning a new language, a sport, or any other activity. So students have different ways of learning in the classroom. I told you about this, right? Thus, as teachers, we definitely need to differentiate our teaching style and strategies. So what I've been talking about is this: whether you're learning a new language, whether you're learning a new sport or another activity, you just have your own way, right? You have your own way based on your past learning experiences, or your family, or your background, or your personality, right? So that's why, as teachers, we need to find those kind of glances, or those kind of glimpses that we see from our like learners. Even we can discuss, and we can discuss how we could do, or how we could convey this kind of topic, or any other different thing with your students. I mean, you could do that. I tried this. For example, I with some of my students, I just tried this, and I asked them, okay, if you were a teacher, or if you were, sometimes it's irritating, sometimes it's like bothering, if you were a teacher. Come on, I'm not the teacher, they would say. I'm not the teacher. Why should I, or why would I bother with this, or why should I imagine this? I'm not the teacher, you're the teacher, they would say. But sometimes you could go with this sentence: if you were to teach this, if you were to teach that to your friend, to your mate, to your mother, to your father, or to your siblings, how would you do that? Then you would take some, that kind of small tricks and hints about their learning styles. And also, it would also, I'm telling you this, it would also light up some bulbs in your mind as well, right? Ah, okay, I've never thought about this. Wow, that's a great thing. Oh, that's a great hint. Wow, I should take this tip in my classroom. You would absolutely observe yourself doing this, right? This is quite important, so don't forget this, okay? And differentiated instruction blends individual, small group, and whole group strategies. So you would try anything you like, because you're the teacher, you're the boss in your classroom. So you would know how to react, and you would know how your students would react to your teaching, right? So there's no one else that would work with them, and understand their needs and know about their weaknesses or strengths or whatever that is. It is you, right? So that's one advantage. And also, another advantage, it goes like differentiated instruction is student centered, right? Student centered, and that is quite important. It's not teacher centered. And differentiated instruction is dynamic and organic. In a differentiated learning space, teachers and students learn together. So as I told you before, at the beginning of my speech in this webinar, I told you that I've been working with the gifted students, so I won't use the word teach. Rather, I would use the word facilitate, right? So this is quite nice when you facilitate their learning, when you, I don't know, when you share those kind of responsibility to teach something, then you would just slightly realize that this is a lot much nicer to have, right? To share this kind of responsibility, because sometimes you I don't know, you tend to, or as teachers we tend to put and throw all the burden on someone else's shoulders, right? And then we just say, okay, I've been raised and I was a student in that kind of educational system, and now I'm the teacher, so I didn't see any like side effects, or I haven't encountered any negative effects. Come on, come on. It's not about that. You need to share that kind of responsibility with your students. And it doesn't have any negative sides. It doesn't have any side effects on your students. But rather, it I don't know, it emphasizes, and also it strengthens the bridge that you build up with your students, right? When you say, okay, this is my part and this is your part, we are a team, right? Of course, there's a balance, and you are in the let's say about this balance thing, right? But students should know that they have that support from you, not as an authority, but someone that they can count on, but someone they could trust, someone they could come and ask. This is quite essential, because it's like much like the relationship that you build up with your coach, basketball coach or football coach or something like that, right? Because they are loved a lot much more. Why? Because they're not basically the teachers. They call themselves as coach, they call themselves a trainer, they call themselves a mentor. So why the love coming from the students to them is a lot much more? Can you just think about that twice? You would find the answer, right? Okay, so that's the balance thing, that's the sharing responsibility thing, right? Differentiated instruction takes multiple approaches. I told you there are 100 ways to differentiate your instruction. Within differentiation in the classroom, instructors can manage what students learn, how students learn, and how students are assessed, right? You're the boss. You can always manage what you want to do and what your students would like, what your students would do, and also what you want your students to do, right? Okay, so these are the advantages of differentiated instruction. How can we benefit from classroom practices? Yay! Okay, here comes the best part, right? Here comes the best part. So differentiation of instruction, it should have been, sorry, are mostly related to how we represent and convey the information, how we process the way our students work, and how we regulate the learning environment, right? Okay, as you can see, this is me with my students, and this is the art room, let's say art saloon or art classroom or whatever you want to call it, is that okay? So for example, I just included some kind of levels and learning styles and skills, but it doesn't really matter. You could use these kind of activities because it is activity based and it is student centered. So that's why you could use, for example, you could have them to talk about their dream job, right? And I will be talking about this in the context of EFL, English language learning, okay? Because I'm an English teacher, so all the things, all the activities that I've been doing with my students is basically mostly focused on EFL, right? So that's why, let's keep that in mind. So my dream job, for example, they would go and talk about their learning buddies, learning partners, about their dream job. And then they could come to you and they could have a presentation in front of their mates and their class mates, right? So that would be one thing. If you don't want to talk about this within that unit you have. For example, I had a unit and that unit was about the jobs. And all I had to do was about the conveying the definitions and the names of the jobs from Turkish to English. And that's all. And the two questions would include it. One of them is, what does a fireman do? He does that, 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 that. And the second one is, okay, what you want to do when you grow up. That's all. But when you have this kind of thing, you have that, I don't know, you put the personality, you put that motivation in your classroom, and then you see that they have, and they are in full capacity to talk about something and to share with you, right? And this is quite important if you want to use it. This is, for example, dream country. They would talk about their dream countries forever. It could take you forever, because I don't know why, but in these kind of, like, in these ages, let's say in this age range, they would go and they would find lots of different countries, and I just suggested them to find another country that does not exist in the whole world. So now, for example, one of my students is still finding some ways and working on the project that one day he would like to officially establish his country, and it's called Ediboria. And I have the tickets, I have the citizenship, I have everything about Ediboria right now. And he is really into this, and he wants to be a historian in the future. So right now he's just working on it so passionately, for example, right? Okay, and you could use this kind of thing, and it doesn't take forever. Like, you could, I just told you about the corner thing, right? So you could do like this. You could use your board, and instead of having those kind of worksheets all the time for the unit that you have to convey, you have to conduct, instead of those kind of boring worksheets all the time, or gap filling activities, or completing the sentences thing, you could have this, for example. You could just divide your blackboard or board into four, and you could just say them, okay, this part is for must-see places, this part is for food and drinks, this part is for sports, this part is for money currency. Either you could do that in the classroom at school, or either they would go at home and they could just search for it. They could just look for it and then submit them to you in the classroom with a presentation, right? Because I told you in the beginning of this webinar that I found and I find the speaking the most crucial skill ever, because I'm the teacher of English, and I wouldn't convey anything, I wouldn't share anything with you if I couldn't speak English with you, right? So that's why this is quite important. And presentation is always at the at the top. Okay, so that's why you could use this as well, right? For example, and you could do this storytelling, creative storytelling. I did this with 10 words. I gave them 10 words, right? And then I just said them, okay, you have your crayons, you have your paints, you have your everything, you have your papers. Now you're gonna have a very short story for me, but it should be yours, right? You shouldn't go to anywhere to look for any ideas or something like that. It should be your original story. So as you can see, there are some words in the background like forest, ghost, boost, and some everything. So they just write some things, and you have some kind of strategy here, like with the art as well. And then they just created the story, and they also shared their story as well. For example, this one. And so they had to speak, they needed to speak. So that's why this is like Captain and the Ship Boy. This is the title of the story. And you see, this is the thing that any student could do in a second, right? In seconds, let's say, like the ship out of paper, or the boy, the ship boy. Come on, it doesn't really require so many artistic skills, right? But it is fun. And at the end of the story, you just observe that those 10 words, that vocabulary would take a lot much more time if you had that task as a homework. For example, sometimes in Turkey, I don't know why, but in the past we had that kind of strategy for homework. We could have those kind of 10 words. At home, we needed to write them for 5 times or 10 times. For example, see, 10 times see on a notebook. For example, ship, 10 times ship on a notebook. Maybe you had the same, I don't know how it goes in your countries, in your educational system, but in the past we had this. So I have never seen any positive side of it. I'm sorry. All I had was this wrist, how to say, pain in my right hand, and also sometimes left hand as well. So with this kind of strategy, you differentiate your instruction, like zigzagging, and also you have that fun in your classroom, right? And for example, this one, you could use data graphing, and it's quite nice and it's quite lovely. And you, with this kind of worksheet, you have the integration of maths into English classes. So that means you take care of your students with that learning style, like analytic thinkers or some learners that are really into maths. So you also gain their hearts as well, right? So that would be a nice work. And also, this is quite nice. You could use a game in your classroom as well, like a bingo game on Nobel Prize awardees, as you can see Einstein in the wall. So that would also affect your teaching positively, right? That would also nice work for you. And also, for example, this was about the poster preparation or flyer preparation for sustainable development. And you could see stop GMF, like GM food, right? Don't eat and do it. And we were talking about that kind of how to say, square shaped watermelons at the time, and we talked about them. And then they would just prepare their flyers like this: don't eat and do it, and such things like that. And this is again quite nice, because when you put something on the paper, it is inevitable that students could forget about that. No way. I mean, they wouldn't forget about that, of course. And sometimes it's quite hard for students to write something on their own. I just gave the example of the letter during my speech. Do you remember that chat GPT thing? So that's why preparing a poster or preparing a flyer provides them with showing their artistic skills to you, even if they don't have that kind of artistic skill. I mean, it is, of course, again, the artistic skill they have because they're the kids, they're the teenagers. So let's say that this is quite nice to have this message on a paper. At least they have that they've just done something really nice, meaningful, and it is real. For example, if I just say them to prepare a poster or a flyer, then I would just publish it in a how to say, international platform, or let's say on Google or Padlet or whatever that is. I mean, international platform it has to be. So would it be something unrealistic, or would it be so like a good thing or something like that. Would you think that? No way. Of course, this is realistic. Of course, this is nice. And of course, this is meaningful. So it wouldn't be something that they would feel themselves so bothered because this is short, right? This is simple. And these are the fifth graders, and you could use lots of things. I mean, for example, with the eighth graders, you would not force them, but you would request them to add something like some little details, like some facts or some precautions to stop GMF, right? So you could always contribute, you could always enrich your teaching style and your tasks, okay? So this is the most basic one. And sometimes I just feel that as teachers, we are so perfectionists. I don't know why we are like this. For example, some of you would think that, okay, but that's just the flyer. And there are some cartoons, and that is two sentences and a title. So, okay, so I mean that's not enough for me, you would say, and you're right. But in the end of the day, all we could do and all we could maybe we should take into consideration is that whether that student produced something or not, either in written way or oral way. If they produce something that you could understand, and if it is meaningful, if it is creative, and if it is nice, and if it is something that you find some relations to the topic, I mean, that's a success for me because you wouldn't expect even from yourself to have a paper on your own on your front, and then you wouldn't expect yourself to fill in all the things in a 40-minute class, or let's say 80-minute class on your own, alone. I don't know, to be honest, I wouldn't expect myself to fill in all the things to create a poster or create a flyer. Rather, even if I'm the teacher, I would go online and I would use Canva to do some kind of poster thing, right? Or flyer thing. I wouldn't expect myself, even from myself, to do something original in a piece of paper in 40 minutes. No way. And if you think about this kind of, I don't know how to say, but if you think about the conditions of today, there are so many distractions. We have those kind of mobile phones and tablets and TVs and everywhere, so much noise and everything. So with this kind of distraction, and this is English, it's the same as maths to most of the students, and you just expect them to have very nice, very concrete, and very how to say, perfect sentences or perfect work on their own in a very short period of time. No way. No way. This would be unrealistic, and this would be, I mean, it wouldn't be impossible, of course, but this would be tiring for you because it would basically ruin your expectations, right? So that's why even this kind of thing, like don't eat, do it, and this caricature or this cartoon would match your expectations at some point, okay? Right? So, for example, this one was about the snowball fight. So it was basically about the find the scientist who is famous for what, right? So in that kind of piece of paper, they had the name of the scientist, and then they would have to find what that scientist is famous for. So there were two groups, and they were running with the time as well. So the time was running out, and they had that kind of, how to say, time pressure as well. But they needed to find which famous scientist is, sorry, which scientist is famous for what. So basically, why we are doing this crap in the classroom? First of all, you take your students and you give them a piece of paper, and you just want them to um, have those kind of scientists written, or you could write as well. And then you want them to how to say, I would just say squeeze, right? Even if it's not the right word right now, I can't find the right word right now, but squeeze the paper and then throw it not to the rubbish bin, but inside of the classroom. I mean, I know the basic principles. I know about the classroom management. I know about the classroom rules that you sit together with your students and define at the beginning of the term. I know, but sometimes breaking the rules feels so good. So that's why when you just do that, when you want your students to litter in the classroom, you can't imagine the faces of them, right? You can't imagine how fun they have in the classroom. But then they need to take that kind of piece of paper, and then they need to read that scientist. And after that, they need to put it in the recycling bin or rubbish bin or trash, whatever that is, whatever you have in the classroom. They have to take it again and they have to put it back in the trash. So don't worry about that. But even if your class size is big, just try this. This is quite nice. I mean, especially that facial expression that they have while throwing it in the classroom somewhere. I don't know. It would be on the floor. It would be on the somewhere. Of course, you need to have how to say, you need to have that balance, and you need to have that atmosphere, that you need to be sure that that kind of papers wouldn't go like a flying paper plane to anyone's shoulder. So it really depends on the on your kids. It really depends on the students, right? And the bridge that you have established with your students. It really depends on that. But please try, okay? Not in the first period, or not in the first term with your students, maybe the second term, maybe when the spring comes, maybe when they need the break time. I don't know, but try it. It's really fun. And global collaborations, you could use also this one. This belongs to one of the posters that I had. Actually, I had collaborated with my colleagues from 11 different countries. So basically, it was about this. We were online. We were both online because I've been working at a gifted center, so our lessons, our classes start from 5 p.m. and they go till 8 p.m. or something like that. So that's why it was so parallel, okay? So in the US, I think at that time they were in the class as well, and it was like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning or something like that. So with two groups of students, and they are both online, not at home, in the classroom, with the teachers on. So we had the role of the moderating of this session. And so that meeting was about meeting the countries, first of all, introducing the countries, introducing themselves, and introducing and also representing the traditions, the food, and must-see places, so on and so forth, like the representing countries, and building some very nice bridges and relationships, good relationships between, I mean, that country and Turkey, right? So that's why it was like a miracle to me, actually, because at that time you share the same moment, right? I mean, they see their peers in the screen, because luckily, I have the smart boards, but I did this with the kids in a village school as well. I did that with the kids with the while I was teaching in a primary school as well. And all I had was that laptop thing, okay? The laptop, and I used the internet of my mobile phone. So because we didn't have the internet at school, right? So all you need to have that laptop and that connection, because I mean, we just had that pandemic situation, right? I don't know about I don't know the situation in your countries, but we had live sessions and we had live lessons for our students during the pandemic, and we used Zoom as well, like this. So that's why it was a great opportunity for me to open up my mind and to realize that oh my God, this works really well. Because, for example, before the session, my students were like, "Oh, I don't know, teacher. I feel so I don't know. I feel so anxious. I feel so shy. I don't know what to speak." Oh, blah 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 blah. But then after the meeting, because we had, the teachers are so nice. They just saw. I mean, the teacher in the USA or the teacher in Peru or Vietnam is not the monster. So they just saw that, and then they just felt that they could speak English. So that was quite interesting as well. And that's the last global collaboration I would suggest and I would share with you. One of my students just had a speech last week, or I don't really know right now, in this month, I mean in October, but it's been like 2 weeks already, I guess. So that was again a nice thing, and you could try as well, right? So we are in closure right now. You will see the conclusions if I have time. I'm not quite sure. But now I would like to say that it's all about getting the information to students at a pace and a time that allows them to learn and to give them options while we're talking about differentiating the instruction, okay? So I just want to thank you, all of you, for being here today. It's such a privilege for me, and it's such an honor to me to be here right now to share this moment with you. And I know I talk too much, but I hope you enjoyed my session, my webinar. So thank you all for coming here and sharing the moment with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gülbin. I believe that everybody have really much enjoyed your presentation. That's the only reason they can stay up with us for an extra half an hour, uh, compared to the planned time. And as you can see from the chat box, they have left great, appreciation towards your sharing and information. And especially we do have many teachers from the Philippines who are
Mhm.
going through a severe storm hitting the country, but they still plan time to be here with us
That's
tonight.
so special. Thank you
Yes,
also. I hope
very
everything
special.
recovers soon.
So again, Filipino teachers, our appreciation towards you, our support with you during this time. Thank you so much for being here with us, no matter what. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
let
Thank
me
you,
just
teachers from
take
Philippines.
the very last moment to share it with you the information of our next event. So let's just mark your calendars for our next webinar, which is scheduled for December 13th, 2024. Stay tuned for more details and registration updates via our EduVerse platform and monthly newsletter. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram for more updates, teaching resources, and practical ideas. And lastly, share your voice with us on our EduVerse letters. Okay, if you have success stories, projects, or creative teaching tips, we invite you to contribute to our EduVerse newsletter, which inspires educators in nearly 200 countries already. Please visit our website to submit your article. Thank you again for your active patient participation and for your time being with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Keep the spark of learning alive. Until then, take care and stay curious. Thank you and have a fantastic weekend.